how do you make more money and more sales on eBay? Well, in my opinion, the answer is fairly straightforward and pretty easy, but for some who are resistant, may not like this answer. So I'm going to tell you all about it here on the other side. So without any further ado, let's go.
Following program contains disturbing materials that may not be suitable for some resellers. Viewer discretion is advised.
I recently received a request from a viewer on one of our live streams to make a video for beginners on how to increase sales using this one tool. It's been around for a while and most resellers on eBay use it, but I think maybe some of the newer folks who are starting to resell on eBay, or people who just want to improve their sales who have been resistant to using this tool, could certainly benefit from it. And what am I talking about? That's right, I'm talking about one of my favorite subjects, promoted listings. And look, I'm not a shill for eBay. I'm just here to help you try to make some money. And I can tell you, and look, I'm only going to show you this because I really feel it gives some credence to what I'm telling you, some credibility. And that is what I made last year. On my main account, I made $137,000 in gross sales. Now, of course, that's gross sales, and that's on this one account. I have another account which is our secondary account. We made just under $20,000. So a combined $157,000 between both stores. And on the main store, I had maybe for a period of about a month, I had more than 200 items at any given time. Usually it was right around 200 items or somewhere in below that. And I'm very proud of that because I didn't have to build a huge store to make that happen. And we're talking almost 2,000 items sold on that very store over the year. And that's pretty impressive. Pretty good sell-through rate, pretty good stats. I only tell you this because I want you to believe that it is possible to make money on eBay. But if you aren't willing to invest in your business by spending money to advertise, and essentially that's what promoted listings is advertising your items, and you're advertising it to get an up on your competition. Don't ever be fooled. Yes, eBay is using promoted listings as a money grab. Of course, we figured that out some time ago. But don't you be fooled into thinking that it's nothing more from your perspective as a way to get a jump on your competition. There are many sellers who actually do a very good job of reselling, but they refuse to promote, and their sales aren't as good as they could be. And I'm going to say this for most categories because I think promoted listings is evolving. And when promoted listings first came out, promoted listings was one of those things where certain categories you really didn't need to think about promoting, and others you probably did. And it was really, in my opinion, it was still about competition then as it is today. But I think that eBay shows your listings in other similar listings, even though they might not meet the same exact words in the search that the buyer is putting into the search bar. And without promoting, you're missing out on opportunities to appear in a lot of these somewhat related listings that might yield you a sale or two that you wouldn't have received before. Now, I want to talk to you about promoted listings, and we're going to jump over the cutaway here. What is promoted listings? Promoting your listings can help you drive sales by putting your listings in front of relevant buyers. With promoted listings, you can have access to ad placements that can attract more buyers. We talked about that. Flexible options and controls to match your business goals. Simple to use platform to create, manage your campaigns. There's a place you can go and manage all of it if you need to. The strategy types, there's more than one way to use promoted listings. And because this video is sort of tailored towards the newer audience, the newer sellers, and or the folks who may have been selling for a while but really they don't have maybe the experience with using promoted listings. Maybe you've just been listing your items without promoted listings. Well, I would say that your best strategy here is to simply use the standard, promoted listing standard. Stay away from things like promoted listings priority, which used to be promoted listings advanced. And that is more of a pay per click where you set keywords, like let's say you're selling an iPhone, you maybe have iPhone as one of your keywords, and you set a price, and there's sort of an auction going on behind the scenes when a buyer types in an iPhone in the search bar, and then your item is placed accordingly to kind of where you finished in that bidding process, and there's slots allocated to that and all that in search. But I don't want to get too far into the weeds. I do want to tell you that using the standard promoted listings campaigns is going to get you more exposure. It's going to produce what we call impressions. So impressions are anytime your item appears on the page where it's within a click of the buyer, potential buyer, clicking on your listings. Even if they don't see it, it just comes and creeps up on the screen. That's an impression, and eBay gives you more of those opportunities when you use promoted listings versus when you don't. And it's just a simple fact. Now, a lot of people might say that promoted listings, when you use it, you're getting a lot of what we call empty impressions, which means that, yeah, they may see your listing, but they aren't going to click on it because maybe it doesn't, the item itself isn't what the buyer was looking for. But then again, anytime you get more eyes on your listings, and that's through impressions, the better chance you have on the buyer taking the next step, which is clicking on your listing, and then the final step, actually going through, they like what they see, and they buy your listing. But an item that's not seen is sort of like an item that's still sitting in your garage, not listed. If a buyer doesn't see it, they don't know about it, and they ain't going to buy it. So I see a lot of times where we increase our promoted listing rates, it jacks up the impressions, and maybe you're not getting a whole lot more sales, but it's no different than taking your items and putting them on other platforms like cross listing. We talk about that a lot on this channel, where you have your items on eBay, you use a tool, or maybe you do it manually, where you put those items on Poshmark, Mercari, and you're trying to do that. You're doing that for one reason, because you're trying to get your item in front of as many eyes as possible. So why wouldn't you do the same thing when it comes to your listings on eBay? If there's a way to get your item in front of more eyes, yeah, it's more money, then you should do it. Now, it's more money when the item sells. That's why I recommend promoted listing standard, because eBay is not going to charge you for that extra amount on the sale unless the item sells, right? So if you're into the item for a good price, meaning that you've bought low and you're able to find an item that you can buy low and sell high, which is the goal, and if you're not doing that basic thing, it's going to prevent you from doing things like promoted listings, markdown sales, coupons, all the little tools that eBay gives you to drive sales. And I use all those tools to drive my sales. So I'm not going to get too far into the weeds on this. I do want you to know that when you go into to create a listing, whether you go into the app or whether you go into the PC, in that listing process, near the bottom, it's going to ask you if you want to promote your listings, and or that particular listing that you're working on. And at that time, you go in and you'll select the little tab, and I'll kind of do that right here with you so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So let's just say this is a listing that I'm doing, which it's not, but right here it'll say listing ad rate, and you want to click on this toggle and you'll select a rate. Now, the default rate is simply that, suggested. Don't fall for suggested. I'm telling you right now, eBay is trying to use this tool to generate revenue. You have to know that. Now, you might think, well, if eBay's telling me to do 9%, shouldn't I do 9%? In theory, yes, but that's if you trust eBay's intentions. I can't say that I do. You can promote anywhere from 2% to 100% if you want to. That's up to you. I've even done an experiment where I tried to promote 100% on a couple dud items. If you want to check it out, I'll try to put the link up here. Didn't go as the way I thought it would go. Let me just put it that way. I would suggest, most people reluctantly promote at 2% because they don't want to give any more than the actual final value fee than they have to. So they'll go at 2%. I would say to start, a good strategy to use is to go with 2.1%, so you're ahead of the crowd. You're not sitting there with, I call them bottom feeders. I'm not trying to be disparaging, but just for the sake of discussion, the folks who don't want to promote any higher than they have to will sit at 2%. Why do you want to be stuck competing against them when you can just add another percentage point, go a little higher than that if you want, and maybe get the benefit of the fact that you're giving eBay more money? It's the way it is. It's a money game, and that's the way eBay looks at it. So how do you know what to promote? What I do is probably going to be different than what you do. I promote anywhere from 8 to 10%. Now, I don't go any higher than 10%. I draw a line at 10%. So you have to, in your mind, draw a line, because if you're paying 13.25% final value fees, and those final value fees, by the way, are on the price of the item that's sold, any shipping that you're charging, and guess what? Even though you're not seeing it, taxes that the buyer's paying, the state sales tax that eBay's collecting, you're paying fees on that. So if you're selling an item at 13.25% before promoted listings are even applied, you've got to think, how high do you want to go? Adding 2.1% will put you at 15.5 roughly percent for many categories. Some categories are a lot less because the final value fees are less. Just depends on the category you're selling in. Well, it can eat up your profit, and that's why a lot of people are hesitant to do it. But if you're already paying 13.25% and you're not at least adding another 2.5% to that, you're stepping over $1 to pick up a quarter. I'm sorry, because in the scheme of things, yes, it does add up over a course of a year, and you're going to have to figure out through trial and error if maybe you try 2% one month, maybe bump it up to 4% if you're not happy with the results, and find a spot where you're starting to get really good consistent sales, and let that be your place. That's where you start at, and then maybe for other items you go up a couple percentage points above that. So that's where I found between 8 and 10%. A lot of it also is competition. If you are selling an item where there's a lot of other people selling that same item, well, you got to see how many times that item sold in the last 90 days, for instance. Maybe it's only sold a handful of times, but you have like 20 or 30 people that have sold that item. You got to do everything you can to be up there in the rankings, and by promoting your listings at a higher rate, you stand a better chance. Now, eBay just doesn't look at where you promote to determine how high up in the best match search that you end up. There's other factors involved, such as your account health, your price plays a role in that, the number of photos, the quality of your listing, a lot of different factors, your account health. So you have to maintain all those things and use promoted listings. If you want promoted listings to work right, you have to have all those other things falling into place. You can get away with having a crummy listing, maybe a photo here, 2 photos there. Maybe your price is somewhat competitive, but not the lowest. You can get away with those things in many cases, but you better be using promoted listings to get the sales. A lot of times people are just scratching their head wondering why they're not getting any sales, and it could be because they're just not promoting at all or enough. I think that's a key thing, because if you have someone promoting at 2% and they're still not getting the sales, that means that their competitors probably are, and their competitors are doing something better than them and or using a higher promoted rate. Now, the way promoted listings works is a buyer clicks on your item, okay? Now, that kind of sets the clock and the timer for them. They have 30 days. That buyer can come back to that listing within 30 days. And if they buy the item because they initially clicked on the promoted sponsored link, and I'll show you here real quick. This is a search I did for a rag doll. You see, these are organic listings. How do I know it's an organic listing? Because it doesn't say sponsored here at the bottom where my mouse is. So if I scroll down, I will finally eventually get to a sponsored listing. Here's one right here, sponsored. and it's for this vintage Bonnie Braids hand puppet doll, 10 inches tall. You click on that, and then you look at it and say, you know what, I'm going to come back in 2 weeks and buy it. Doesn't matter if you click on the sponsored link on that listing or not. eBay knows you've clicked on that link, and you're basically, the seller is going to pay that sponsored promoted listing rate. So that's kind of how that looks. And you know, it's not going to be the fix for everyone. It's not going to work 100% for everyone using promoted listings. It's going to work for most people. And I sell pretty much everything that can be profitable. If it's something that I can sell to make money, it's going to go up in my store. And I generally, when I'm buying and sourcing, I'm looking to source low to sell high, maybe anywhere from 5 to 10x what I'm into the item for, I'm trying to make on eBay. And I allow the solds, I go into the 90-day solds and onto what used to be known as Terapeak, which is now product research, to help me determine what the market value is for an item. And I guess that's a topic for another video for another day. But I just want you to know that utilizing promoted listings, it doesn't have to be scary. You can go in, and once you're established and start promoting, you can go into advertising here in your Seller Hub, go into your dashboard, okay, and your campaigns. These are all your campaign stats for the promoted listings that you're doing. And so it's going over, you know, the number of clicks generated because of the campaigns, quantity sold, the sales, and this is the last 90 days, ad fees as a result of using promoted listings, the click-through rate, sales conversion rate, which is probably the most important metric, and return on ad spend, which I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time focusing on that. And then you can kind of dive down deeper and look at your promoted listings. You can even promote stores and use promoted offsite ads, which, if you're watching this video, get used to using promoted listings first before you even consider using the ones that we've talked about, like the priority or promoted offsite, which is a way to get your items more exposure on Google search and all that. Focus on just the standard for the first year or two of reselling. That's what I would recommend. And then you can come in here and take a look at, you know, how many impressions, how's the ad performance doing on these items, and it'll kind of tell you through a graphical interface. It'll tell you, how are you generating sales? Are you, getting a lot of impressions? This will tell you, and you can kind of see, and you can then change from a 2% to like a 2.1% to a 4%, and then see how things change for you over time. It's a trial and error. There is no formula for promoted listings that works for everyone. You're just going to have to go in, set up your listings. Again, start small. If you're starting off, start small and work your way up until you find a place where you're comfortable with the amount that you're spending on your eBay listings. So if it's 20%, find out how much your final value fees are for the item you're selling. For some, it's 8%. For some, it's 13.25%, or whatever that number might be. And then if 20% is the most you want to spend on your eBay fees for that item, that means in some cases you're going to have 7%. And on other listings, depending on the category, you're going to have a solid 10% if you wanted to. So that's sort of what I'd recommend. And I hope that this information has helped somebody out there to improve their sales and to get more eyes on your listings. Because again, we do this work, creating listings, taking photos, cleaning items, staging items so you can take the photos. We do all this work not for the fun of it, because we want to make money and we want to maximize the amount of money we're getting for the time we're putting into listing. So hopefully this video has helped you, and I want to know down below what your thoughts are on this information, and if you have any other ideas and strategies that you use with promoted listing standard, because we're not talking about the other promoted listing strategies. That's for sort of an advanced video we'll do at another time. But figuring out how to best utilize promoted listings for your eBay store is yet another example of how flipping ain't easy. And I want you to have an excellent rest of your day, and we will talk to you very soon. Take care.
Oh! Chargebacks, returns, and lowball offers too. Vero takedowns, they're a pain, what can we do? High selling fees, bad buys, and rude buyers galore. Flipping ain't easy, but we keep coming back for more. All resellers are gonna make mistakes. Learn from them, and you'll have what it takes. In the world of reselling, we're your guide. When flipping ain't easy, by your side. Sourcing great items is the key to success. Subscribe to the channel and stand above the rest. Focus on the thing that's within your control. Hang with flipping ain't easy. Let's roll. Catch the live streams on Mondays and Fridays. Join the Discord community for the parlays. Tune into the podcast Profit Playbooks. The name with Scott and Josh. Flipping's more than a game. Chargebacks, returns, and lowball offers too. Vero takedowns, they're a pain, what can we do? High selling fees, bad buys, and rude buyers galore. Flipping ain't easy, but we keep coming back for more. Oh, all resellers are gonna make mistakes. Learn from them, and you'll have what it takes. In the world of reselling, we're your guide. Flipping ain't easy, but by your side. Sourcing great items is the key to success. Subscribe to the channel and stand above the rest. Focus on the thing that's within your control. Hang with flipping ain't easy. Let's roll. Catch the live streams on Mondays and Fridays. Join the Discord community for the parlays. Tune into the podcast Profit Playbooks, the name. With Scott and Josh, flipping's more than a game. Catch the live streams on Mondays and Fridays. Join the Discord community for the parlays. Tune into the podcast Profit Playbooks, the name. With Scott and Josh, flipping's more than a game.